Introduce yourself.
I'm Devin.
I'm Kendall.
I don't know if it's on. It's go.
Kendall. I'm Carrie Ann. We just wanted to give you guys a big thank you for everything that you guys do. Seriously, we would not have been able to go on travel teams if it weren't for you, and just your guys' support. It seriously means the world. I cannot express enough how much it means to us.
Okay. We just want to start off by explaining what travel teams was. And obviously what Pastor Randy said, it was different than OB, and the purpose of travel teams was to equip us with a ministry mindset. So
yeah, we spent a lot more time going into churches, learning from them, serving. It was a lot of different things, and it was not the typical what you know of OB, what you guys know, we didn't play with kids a lot, we didn't, do puppet shows, we didn't do a lot of the same things. It was very different. So we'll go into what we did. That's our team there.
yeah. There was 18 of us?
Yeah, it was 18 of us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. When you spend 3 weeks with the same people, it becomes your second family. You build relationships, you build friendships. It's incredible.
During the orientation, which was 3 days, we got to meet the travel team, the worship travel team, which was really cool. They spent those days with us. It was really cool to meet them. They were there singing and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, they were two different travel teams. There was our team, which we just focused on learning about ministry, and then their travel team, which they focused about going to different churches and learning how to worship together. And that was just us. We did a lot of team building exercises too, the beginnings of it all, and taking time to go to different churches and see how they run, because it's crazy how different other churches work. We are so used to being in this environment in this much of a church, and it was so weird going to a church of 10,000 people compared to our 150 of us that we get every morning. It's crazy.
Okay, what we did, you already said that. So, relationships and friendships. We made a lot of different friends. By the end of, 3 days? After about 3 days, we knew everybody's name. It was so hard to learn everybody's name at first because there were just random people that we just met, and it was kind of confusing because some of them looked alike. Some of them had very different names, like Maya and Mia.
Oh,
yeah.
Mixed that up a lot, but and yeah, just the friendships we made. We've stayed in contact a decent bit.
He's saying bring the mic up.
Okay, we've stayed in contact a little bit. But we've been in contact with them, and we've been talking to them about how they've been doing since the end of travel teams, and we're doing okay. Some of us are struggling, but we're working those things out.
I think too, meeting everyone, we had an instant connection with them just because we all have that Christian foundation. We all have that I love Jesus, when we go there. And you don't get that with meeting strangers. But meeting them, we automatically connected. We automatically got along for those 3 weeks so well just because we had that foundation.
That was one of our service projects that we did. We went into a lady's home and cleaned her yard because it was crazy. But that was, I think, it was our hardest day, I think, for me at least. It was super
physically
hot. Yeah.
It was very hot, and we just did physical labor all day. But it was a good chance for opportunity. Some of us got to go into her home and talk to her. I talked to her, and it was just nice getting to connect with her. She was a Christian, and she had also I got to pray with her because we all got to pray with her because she had a surgery she was about to go into, and it's just incredible. You're thinking, oh, I'm just going to a house and I'm going to be working all day and I'm going to be sweating and doing all kinds of work, and but it's just great. You can, in everything that you do and all the ministry that you do, you can build relationships off of that too.
Yeah.
At that guard cleanup, we found 2 snail shells. I took them to where we were sleeping, put them on a counter. The next morning, they were stuck on the wall. So I was like, nice, now I have 2 pet snails. I still have them, fun fact. Still living well. All right, just thought I'd add that.
He takes them everywhere.
No.
They go everywhere.
I only took them to Momentum because I wanted to show my friends.
We were eating at Steak and Shake last night,
And
he has the
their
snails
bottle.
on the counter, like in the bottle.
Yeah, I had to change their food. I took a piece of lettuce off my hamburger and, okay, yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, we made a lot of new friends, and we actually got to see a few of them at Momentum these past few days. It was really nice, but personal. That was the same day that we did that yard work.
Yeah, she just had a lot of like overgrown weeds, like it was, and so we did a lot of just like pulling that out, cutting down trees. Yeah. That was when we were in Philly. We did a lot of different things in Philly. We were only there for 3 days. If anyone's been like to Urban Hope, it was kind of like that, but busier. We did a lot more outreach, a lot more like walking around, picking up trash, doing prayer walks, like walking around, meeting people, trying to incorporate God talk, if you guys have heard us say that before. Just incorporating God into the conversation with a lot of people. Yeah. Oh, you want to talk about Needle Park?
Yeah. When we were in Philadelphia, we went to this park. It was called Needle Park, and it was a really good eye-opening experience because when you're there, you don't realize how good of a life that you have until you go there and see the way that those people live every single day. And well, like we had like a booth and we were handing out food and water to these different people, and they were kind of they were just really out of it from all the drugs and everything. I don't know if you guys want to add anything, but like we would stand there and I watched like a mom and her daughter walk by, and like this little girl, like I just felt so bad because, you know, we come back here and we live like our normal lives, and then there was that little girl who was there and she has to be there every day, you know.
And that's hard to like let sink in. Like when you're there for one day, like yeah, it's sad, but like they go through that every day. Like there are people that are in that park and like live literally like in that park every single day, are barely surviving, don't know when their next meal is going to be every single day. And I know some of you, you handed out food. Mm-hmm. Some of us split off into groups. Like I split off into a group and we went around the park handing out waters and stuff, and we actually got to like talk and pray with a couple people. And it's just crazy, like it's so easy to judge, but when you really talk to them, people, like they're people too. They have the same problems we do. They think the same way we do. They just have an addiction, or they just have, you know, they're in this loop. They're in this cycle that they can't get out of. And that like is our goal. That was our goal that day, was to give them hope. And yeah.
Yeah, that park was not like that before COVID. Whenever COVID hit, the mayor of Philadelphia, they said, or he or she, I don't know which one it is, but they said that police weren't allowed to arrest people for drug use and like selling drugs and stuff like that, because those are just minor things. But so they would just go, all the people that do drugs would just gather up at this park and just do drugs openly, and it was kind of scary, but it was just so sad because they would just walk around with needles in their ears like pencils. They would have like 3 or 4 needles in their sock, just walking around, just in their hand. You would just see them put it right in their arms. It was kind of sketchy, but yeah. So, and they advertise people to come to the park to do drugs. Like the people in the park that do drugs, they advertise it to other people to come and do drugs because they just need to, I don't know, get their fix or whatever. But the community there is crazy. Like they're all so close and tight, and they're all so nice to each other, and it's just weird.
Yeah, that's because, like I said, like they're just like us. They want connection. They want family too. And like Kendall said, like it just really is an eye opener. It makes you more grateful for coming back home. I do remember we got to meet one woman who had. Do you remember she invited people like that were part of that community into her home, like for food and stuff like that, but she would not allow them to like do drugs while they were there. And it's actually interesting because that's how like she incorporated like Christ and into like conversations with people, and I think she's helping people like turn away from that, and that's really incredible.
I also wanted to add that I was telling my parents this, like, I think the day we got back, when we were there, like, as we were walking past people, you would just see, like, friends, like, shooting up the drug for the other friend, like, when the other one's just passed out. And I just thought that was crazy, because it's just, like, you don't know people's backgrounds, and you don't know how they got there, but, like Carrie Ann said and what I said, it makes you really grateful to have the life that we have here, in the community that we have here. So, yeah.
I think some other things we did in Philly, like we did walking around, what are they called? Food markets. Why couldn't I think of that? We walked around food markets and walked around what?
I thought you were gonna say the scavenger hunt.
Oh, the scavenger hunt. Yeah, that too. We did a lot of like trying to get out of our comfort zones, talking to strangers. Like, what was the one thing like we had to do the scavenger hunt?
We had to. One of the questions was like, "Are you from South Philly?" or something like that, and then for some reason we didn't find like anybody that was from South Philly, even though we were in South Philly, which was kind of weird.
It was cool though, because you got to like meet a lot of people that were like, "Oh yeah, I'm from like South America," or "I'm from like it's cool," and then you get to ask them like their background. Oh, well, what made you want to come to Philly? Like it was really good.
Oh, and another question was, are you good at a Rocky impression? And one lady did it. It was so funny, but it was not good at all. It was not good.
I mean, basically just the point was just connect with people and find people that like had tattoos or just had something, so you could start a conversation with them and pray with them. But,
we did a lot of, that was in Philly, and after that we traveled to York. We were stationed in York, Pennsylvania, not New York. That would have been cool, but York, Pennsylvania. And we traveled a lot to different churches. That was one of the churches we traveled to. We learned a lot that day about first impressions, which is like when you walk through the door and people are like shaking your hands. We don't think about that a lot, but like that's really encouraging whenever you're walking through a church and you have people talking to you, you have people greeting you. Like if you're walking in a church that you've never been into and there's nobody there like directing you or saying, "Hi, good morning, how are you?" Like it can be impactful if you're, nervous about going into a new church. And we also learned, like we got to dance and sing with our worship team. It was really fun.
And like kind of going along with that, we learned a lot about like behind the scenes stuff, and we learned that there's like way more to a church than the pastor, and like it takes a lot of people to put like a Sunday service together. So it's just cool to see the different churches like functioning and preparation for that also. So
especially since every church is different, especially with the size, like with our church, we don't have nearly as many like volunteers or workers in ours, but like when you go, like I said, to like the 10,000 people church, like it's huge. There are people on like parking lot patrol, people in security, people like their tech crew is like 20 plus people. Like it's crazy, and it was like such a neat experience being able to see and learn from so many. I think we went to like at least like 8 or 9 different churches over the course of our trip.
We went to way more than that.
Okay, it was more than that. To learn from them and just see the behind the scenes stuff like Kendall said.
Yeah, one of the churches we went to, their tech team had 18 paid people that did tech and then 30 volunteers. So they had 48 total people just on tech up there, which is crazy.
It was like 2 Sundays we did different children ministries. Well, some of us did. And that's me and Carrie Ann up there with the little kids, and then Devin with that little kid. But it was cool because I've never like actually worked with children, like never actually did the actual, little kids program. But you got to meet a lot of little ones, and it was really fun to connect with them. So
it was interesting for me because I've never sat through like volunteering like with the kids, and that was one of the bigger churches that we went to. So they split it up. Like me and Kendall were in like pre-K through 5th grade.
I don't even remember.
There was
I
like a nursery, and there was like
elementary.
really young. There were like toddlers in nursery. Like there were different. They split it up, and it was cool being able to see like how they organized. Like, oh, this is like their worship time. This is their game time. This is their Bible lesson time. Like I remember the guy literally doing like the Bible lesson with like little Minecraft characters. Like it was like it was interesting. Like seeing like other people teach kids, because I think the only time that I've ever gotten to see like kids and like teaching and everything was at VBS, which is another story we can talk about.
Yeah. We had to do and help with like a whole week of VBS. Like we were basically in charge of it. I was doing photography. I was doing photos of little kids.
I did game time.
And I was in the Bible Adventure Room, which was just like you do a skit for the kids. So, but there was a lot to it. And one of our leaders, if it weren't for her, like planning ahead of time, that's another behind the scenes thing. I think one huge thing that we learned over the course of this trip was like leadership isn't always just the people in front talking and whatnot. Like a lot of it is behind the scenes things. And there was just so much. Like we had to have crew leaders like come in to watch the kids. We had to have people like for the Bible room. We had to have people with snack, people with the imagination station. Like there was all kinds of stations and all kinds of stuff we had to do for that. And
yeah, it was fun. I still have the VBS songs in my head, but it's fine. Back to what Karen said about like challenges or team building. So there was, I really do not even like it, but there was one time we did it was like a maze. And so we put these blindfolds on, and I don't even know, it was like nighttime. And they were just like, yeah, we're putting blindfolds on you. And then we walk out in like this single line, and they told us that we had to get to the end of the maze. And
they were ropes, like you had to hold on to the rope and keep going until you felt the end of the rope.
And
there was no end.
Yeah, there was no end. So
the purpose was our leaders would walk around and say, if you need help, ask for help. The most stubborn people got out last.
That was me.
Because like the purpose was for you to say, I need help, and then that was how you got out.
Yeah. So that was fun.
It was a nice lesson just because like it's a reminder that we need help. We need to ask for God to help us in all situations. We can't always get out of our circumstances by ourselves.
Yeah.
That was during VBS.
Yeah.
Oh, was that PJ? That was PJ Day. Nice.
PJ Day. There were themes.
Yeah. Okay, we can just move on. That was us at Momentum last weekend. So we got to go to 2 Momentums on the road. Went to the one in Lidditz last weekend and then the one in Columbus this weekend, which was cool. We had, during the trip, I think it was like, for me it was more toward the end where I had like more of a personal experience, and it was at our last church we went to. It was a big church, like a really big church compared to ours. And I remember we were worshiping and like there was a lot of kids. Like I think it was like, yeah, it was huge. And we were singing, and I remember like standing there and just had the feeling of like wanting to go over and pray for my 2 travel team friends that were standing right here in front of me. And so I went over to them and like I prayed over them, and then as I said amen, they looked at me and were just sobbing. And I was just like confused because I was like, what did I just do? Like, did I just hurt them, or like, I don't know. And my one friend, Libby, she turned to me and she was like, you don't realize what you just did. And I was like, oh gosh. And she was like, everything you just prayed for was everything that I just prayed to God for. And she was like, I literally asked God like 30 seconds before you walked over to bring someone over to me and pray for me. And she was like, I thought that a leader would walk over, but you did. And my other friend that was in the prayer circle thing with me, Riley, she literally said the same thing. And I just thought it was really cool because I didn't think that I could do something like that. But it was just a really cool experience that I wanted to share with you guys because it's a really big eye-opener what prayer can do. So
And it's crazy, like, we just went to a youth night, like that was their youth group night, and like you don't realize like what is going to happen like from you going to those nights. Like you can just think like, oh, this is just another night of me going to youth. But like every opportunity that we have like out in the world around people like is an opportunity for you to make a difference in someone's life. I think that night, it was the same night, it was before the service, and I was talking to a little boy, and this was like very like personal for me because he was at the age that I got saved, and when he was talking to me, like he clearly needed someone to listen to him because he just kept talking and talking and talking about all his issues, and it was like these same experiences that he's had, I had. And then it was just so sad because I asked him, I was like, can I pray for you? And he was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't pray. Like I never prayed. The reason why he goes to youth and everything is because his family makes him go, and he doesn't, he didn't know what that was. And I had the opportunity, I took it, I prayed with him, and afterwards he was like, thank you so much. Like I feel so much less, like I don't feel scared anymore. I feel relieved, and like I needed that. And you don't realize like how simple it is just to walk over to someone and like start a conversation, just say, hey, like my name's this, like what's your name? Like that, like can be just what someone needs in their day. Like it's so scary, like at least for us, like it can be so scary to talk to people and like try to talk about Christ like that. I don't know why, but that seems like such a scary thing that we get anxious about. But like it's just having a conversation with someone. Like the worst that can happen is someone like says no or like walks away. Like you can have a conversation with someone, and that can really make an impact on their life. And that's kind of what, at least one of my biggest takeaways from this trip was just that we are called to minister everywhere we go, not just in the church, but when you're at Food Lion, like shopping around the store, like if you feel called to talk to someone, like they may need that. Like
I don't know, I just thought it was cool how like powerful prayer is. Because before I walked over to them, I had no idea what I was gonna say. And then it just came to me, and apparently every word that I said was something that they were thinking of and what they prayed for, so it was just really cool.
My turn, okay. At that same church, I was praying for something, and this guy just walks up beside me. I'm sitting like this. He walks up like this, puts a hand on my chest and on my back, and just says the exact same thing I was just praying for. And it was so like, I don't even know, it was just different because I've never had anything like that happen. And we also heard people speaking in tongues, which was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, that church, what they did, like this is normal for them, like at the end, like when we're worshiping or they play music, like, or we're praying, like people just walk around to each other and like just lay hands and they'll pray for each other. Like that's like new. We never seen that before, but like that's kind of incredible, like that they can do that and how much that works in people.
Okay, that's another picture of us at Momentum from last weekend.
That one.
That's
Okay. But basically, we were impacted a lot over those past 3 weeks, and just by visiting people, praying for people, it just really changes your mind on things, and I don't know, it definitely has changed something in me, something that I actually needed, so, yeah.
I agree. Just like what you said, like about Needle Park, like all of the experiences, it's so difficult to come up here and try to like explain, like we can't go through our itinerary and explain every little thing that we did and how everything impacted us. I mean, I could, like if you want to talk to me afterwards, I will go through that, but
okay, we were given these at the beginning. They're our travel team like notebook journal things, and I filled my whole thing up, and because everywhere we went there was always something that you can learn and something that you can take away, and it was something that I wanted to remember and I can look through as we were gone. So
yeah, there was so much. Yeah, there was so much information, so much that we learned. It's so difficult to limit that and put it into words and try to like share that with you guys. But like everything we did, I feel like we all came back with a changed perspective, with a lot more gratitude than we had before we left. Developed a lot more patience. You had to be flexible, very flexible. I know this from Tristan, but OB, they don't give you your itinerary. They don't tell you what you're going to do day to day. It's like a surprise. They told us. They've never done that before, but it changed so much. It changed so much day to day. Things were changing. Schedule was always changing. We really had to learn flexibility and patience.
I think also because there were so many girls, and like there was only like 5 guys, but there were like 14 girls, and it's just, I'm not used to being around all those people all the time, like, you know, going to the bathroom together, things like that. So it's like you have to really learn to like halt. And I don't remember exactly
HALT.
what each
It stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you were any of those, you had to just breathe and just stop and before you say anything, because there were so many moments when you're always with people, you get frustrated at times, and you have to breathe and take a step back. And
plus everyone's personalities were so different, so it was like really hard to like always be happy with those other people and always, you know, be nice to them. Sometimes you just need to just not talk.
Ooh, and like on that, I think one thing we all three got like pretty well, we were pretty well with, was like listening over speaking. When you're with a lot of people and like you're trying to discuss things like after lessons and all of that, like everyone has opinions, everyone likes to state how they feel. You have to learn to not, when you're talking, wait for your turn to speak. Like when you're listening, you should be actually listening to someone and not just waiting to say something. We all three, I think, definitely learned to focus more on listening rather than just talking and talking over other people.
Okay, so we had exit interviews and midterm tour interviews, and we got to, at the exit interviews, talk to Aaron and like tell him things that we wanted to change here and some things that we want to see improvement on, and which was nice because I feel like there's a little bit of improvement that needs to be here, and especially for youth, because youth is, you know, now, like, we are the generation, and without youth, like, what is there?
I forget what statistic
No
it
offense.
was. I forget what statistic it was, but one of our, I think it was Eric Miller, who's in charge of all this. He told us that like 85% of pastors today are like 55 or older, and they're going to be retired within the next 10 or 20 years. And there's so little of youth. Like if we don't step up and go into that call of ministry, or like, you know what I mean? Like youth is important. Like getting people to come to like Sunday school, getting kids to come to youth, like that is important, getting them involved. And I think we learned individually too, like not just differences we wanted to make in our church or changes we wanted to make, like individually. I know like for me, stepping out whenever you do feel that call to talk to someone, praying boldly, talking to people, building relationships, incorporating God talk, building more godly habits. We had, when we were over the trip, like an hour with God every day, which I'm not gonna lie, there have been some days where it's like, oh, I'm behind on journaling, I'm gonna journal, like it, or like days where like you just sat there and breathed because like you needed that alone time. But there were really good days where it's like, you know, looking back on the busy days where you don't have any time, like I think it's easy to say we live in a busy world where life is priorities and we don't prioritize God all the time. But whenever we took that hour out of our busy day to just get into scripture, that just makes such a difference on your perspective, on your mind, on your heart. Like that, it really is important. And I think that's something like I took home with me. Like I've been trying to spend at least an hour like in my Bible every day, always prioritizing God, whether that means I'm going to bed an hour later, losing an hour of sleep. losing an hour of sleep, gaining an hour with God. Like,
I think something else was like that I noticed with myself is my attitude difference from when I was there and when I'm home. Because obviously when you're there, you don't have phones, like you're around these people that are all there for a reason, and it's the same reason as you. And so like your attitude is completely different. And that's what night